Bonjour, bienvenue à tous, et spécialement à notre visiteur, à notre lecture d'aujourd'hui. Et selon que nous sommes oubliés de faire, c'est en anglais, je me vais passer en anglais. Et I would like to thank you all for coming today. And as I said, especially to our today's lecture. And also I have to mention, and I'm really happy that Miss Biljana Komatinovic is with us. She's from Centre Culturel Français, and in a way I could say somebody who presents official French administration here. Unfortunately, Mr. Stanislas Pierre, director of the center, who is also friend for a long time of Ms. Delsol, couldn't be with us, but we had very nice time with him 2 days ago, and yesterday they met. So I'm really grateful also that in a way your institution contributed and welcomed Ms. Delsol with us. As I said already, I'm really happy that we succeeded to organize this short but very intensive, and at least for us, very useful and nice visit of Professor Delsol. We started this arrangement even before COVID, like in the old times, pre-COVID times. Unfortunately, this all took like 3 years, and finally we could organize this meeting. Actually, she came 2 days ago, and yesterday we had very nice tour with a visit to Srpski Karlovci and Novi Sad, and she had very nice lecture about mondialization and transformation of humanity and humanism in a way. And today we will have a presentation of the last book that Mr. Delsol published. I have Italian translation with me. For the time being, it's published in French, Spanish and Italian. The book is called The End of, let me say, Christendom, more than Christendom, not Christianity, but Christendom and Return to Paganism. It's in let me say, number of the pages small, but very intensive, very classical philosophical book with a very nice argumentation, comparison, and so on. But Professor Delsol will speak, of course, more competitively about that. Before I give floor to her, I just want briefly to present her. I mean, there's a lot of, if you open, for example, Amazon France, you will find dozens of titles. Beside political philosophy, political theory, and theory of culture, Ms. Delsol is also writer of novels, essays, and other, let me say, la belle littérature, not only philosophy. But I would have to mention that she is, that's also, at least for me and all of us who follow political theory, very important. She is disciple of the famous French philosopher Julien Freund. And as she said yesterday, in those times they were working on the PhD for 10 years. The thesis was very seriously taken under the mentorship of Professor Freund, and she defended her thesis in 1982, and it was dealing with dictatorship, tyranny, totalitarianism, despotism, and so on, classical, let me say, non-democratic forms of government, which is very interesting to make comparison with what is happening today in the world. And she very often have the references to this development. After that, and one thing I should not forget, why she did it for very long. Before that, she is the mother of the 6 children, and now it's 15 or 16 grandchildren, which is very great achievement. And together with this fantastic theoretical career, it's really something to be amazed by. So of the most important, she was working, she's retired now, still supervising the thesis. She was working at University Paris-Est Marne-Laval Am I precise in? And the student of the is here. I didn't mention that Biljana was also a student of Professor Delsol. Of many books that she published, I will just mention several very well accepted, published in English, Icarus Fallen, from 2003, if I remember. Ainsi mort la démocratie, or This is the way the democracy died. La crépuscule de l'universel, or let me say Twilight of Universal. Les idées politiques au XXe siècle, are political ideas in the 20th century. Very influential and very nice book on populism, published before this last book that we're gonna present. She's also author of two contributions from the very famous edition Qu'est-ce que, or What Do We Know, about, she wrote about l'autorité, or authority, the concept of authority, and one thing that is very important for her and her theoretical, let me say, political position, this is le principe de subsidiarité. And she wrote also, she has a book about the problems of subsidiarity in Europe, and so on and so on. And I will stop here. I think there are a lot of things we could speak after that, but I already took a lot of time. Chantal, welcome to, and okay. Now it's
good.
Please.
Thank you, my friend. I beg your pardon for my bad pronunciation. You know, French are not so good in languages. So, after what we call revolutionary season, 19th century, about, Christianity was blamed by scientism. You know that. And scientism claimed to replace it. Then, after, Marxism replaced scientism in this substitute enterprise in 20th century. For the generations of the second half of the 20th century, second half, omnipresent Marxism takes the place of religion. Then, Marxism also engendered disappointment. You know all that. At the end of the day, we find ourselves in the situation ironically summed up by Woody Allen, I quote, "God is dead, Marx is dead, and myself, I do not feel very well." I think it is real. At the same time, the European would like to erase the religious origin of our history. As you know that some regimes remove the embarrassing characters from the old official photos afterwards. During the drafting of the European Constitution, the question of the affirmation of Europe's Christian roots came to the debate of the European Council. I don't know if you remember that. Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, the United Kingdom, Greece, and Poland were in favor of this mention, European Christian roots. But Jacques Chirac, unfortunately, said he was against. He is French. Leading behind him, Belgium and Sweden. 3 countries imposed their view on all others, which indicates the strength of the pressure in the direction of the retractation of the religious. In 2012, Slovakia, on the occasion of the 1500th anniversary of Cyril and Methodus mission in Great Moravia, struck the effigy of the saint on the national side of its €2 coin. You know, we have a national side and a European side. At once, France, followed by the Commission, demanded, not asked, but demanded the erasure of the halos and crosses of the saints on the coin. A revolt of the Slovak public opinion decided the government of this country not to obey. When Viktor Orbán, another, had a new constitution adopted for Hungary with a preamble emphasizing, I quote, the unifying virtue of Christianity for the Hungarian nation. Well, the case gave rise to literary historical debates in the European Parliament. I speak about historical debate. Please turn off your cell phone when you enter the conference room. Put your mobile home on the plane mode. Forget about your private conversations that you will resume later. Please turn off your religion beliefs when you enter the classroom, in Parliament, in the conference room. Put God on the plane mode. It has nothing to do with it. You will resume your private conversation with Him when you are done with the important things. It is what they think in Brussels and also in other governments. All these vicissitudes are only the comet tail of a capital process. Today, a story that is 2 millennia old is coming to an end. Modernity, as a process of doubt and uncertainty, did not destroy Christianity, but it destroyed indeed Christendom. It did not destroy Christianity. The recent renewal of beliefs responds to the search for a meaning that all-powerful rationality could not bring. While religious belief was erased forever by the scientific age, we are witnessing a rebirth of religion in postmodernity, a rebirth. While in the West, writers like Debray in France, Vatimo in Italy, Engelhardt in US are now believers. They were not before, they are now believers. And for example, China now has more believers, over 100 million, about, that single party. The party, 605 million. There are many examples of this recent development. It becomes difficult to claim again that religion is only something for stupid mind. It's impossible to say. So, it is not the Christianity that fades, but Christendom, And what is the difference between the two? Christendom refers to a society in which Christian anthropology, Christian morality inhabited our customs, our modes of being, our mentalities, and irrigated our laws. This is no longer the case. Our laws, our morals, are inspired by all kinds of other worldviews. For example, if a question such as medically assisted procreation or euthanasia arises, it is the case now in France with euthanasia, we question ethics committees in which all religions and pseudo-religions are represented. We don't question the bishop of the town as before. Christianity, of course, still exists, and even here and here is growing. But it is no longer the master and inspiration of our societies. It is very important as a processus. The moral, political, and legal domination of Christianity has passed. At the same time, it is becoming more and more minority in our societies, I mean in Occidental societies. In this respect, it is, after 2,000 years, the end of Christian societies. What are we then becoming? What can be said about this impressive metamorphosis? I would like to propose an analysis of this intellectual and spiritual replacement. How to describe our intellectual and spiritual situation in view of this collapse of the religion that made our continent? I'm going to tell you some example, very impressive, I think. We talk a lot about nihilism. I believe rather that we are becoming pagans, not nihilists. There is a profound difference between the nihilist and the pagan. They are not at all assimilable. There is indeed a nihilist or relativist current in our culture. There is one. I'm going to give you some example, running both violent and limited. If one wants to make his genealogy of nihilism, one will start from Diogenes the Cynic. It's very old, Diogenes the Cynic. And you will go on the centuries and pass by Sade. Sade is a nihilist. And arrive, for example, I am in France, to Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault is a nihilist. It is a thought that wants not to change culture, but to break down anthropology itself. The anthropology, what the ethnologic thought, for example, in France, Mauss and Lévi-Strauss call the base. We say in France, in French language, le roc, what is absolutely strong, impossible to break. And nihilists want to break the rock, the base. For example, Diogenes the Cynic said that incest should be practiced. You know, it is, you are breaking the rock here. Homosexual marriage I hope I'm not going to be pushed out to say that, but homosexual marriage laws belong to this stream. It is nihilism. We can say it, I can say it, maybe you are not okay, but because no human society in the space, in the time, has legitimized this kind of practice, even if there were individuals who preached them. In fact, we have, in all the history, we have one only example of homosexual marriage in history. It is the Nero's marriage, which was a buffoonery. You can see it very easily on Google. Diogenes, because he was a witty cabotin, made the Athenians laugh. They laugh about him. He was a very funny guy. But they wouldn't have careful, put him in power, impossible to put in power somebody like that. I do not think we had to worry about this type of intellectual and spiritual anarchism, led mainly today by the current of French deconstruction and wokeism current. Our societies will not become nihilist. Why? Because that thought, nihilism, is not viable. We can have some guy as Diogenes, as sad. You can laugh about them, but all society couldn't be nihilist. This type of elite cynicism makes a lot of noise, but doesn't not convince in depth. It is impossible. On the other hand, paganism is more to be taken seriously, is really to be taken seriously, because it is viable. There is a problem? No? Because it is viable, as all human history shows abundantly. And as such, it spreads. Take the example of other so-called societal laws, that of abortion or euthanasia, for example. They are not nihilistic, not at all, but they are typically pagan laws. They mean that human life has value only in terms of what society confers on, only, and not intrinsic value, as in Christianity. All the societies of the world, except ours. See the Diogenes letters, for example. Except ours, throw to the river the badly trained or supernumerary children. All society, except ours, except Judeo-Chrétienne, Jews and Christian. And also admit suicide, and sometimes glorify suicide, as by ancient Greek, for example, ancient Roman. When we advocate euthanasia or abortion, we simply become pagans again, only. Our new contemporary customs go in this direction. For example, the diffusion of the belief in reincarnation, very, very important today. The will to be cremated, very important also, and to spread its ashes on such landscape dear to his heart, for example, or other example, the vogue of Spinoza, very important, or the pantheism of the radical ecology, very important too. It is paganism. All these currents are paganism. This shift towards paganism means that we return to the primordial culture before Christianity. I think we can discuss about it, but I think it is a kind of natural culture. The first that comes, the one found everywhere, or we can say the primordial soup, you see, primordial soup of culture. This is how our religions naturally give way to wisdom, naturally, and everywhere. In China, as in and by ancient Greek, the wisdoms are literally immanent. We came back today. I think we came back under a Greek sky because we believe that God has abandoned us, and the movement of verticality has lost its strength at a time when space takes precedence over time. We could speak a lot about it. Wisdoms, all wisdoms, offer a morality without a genuine religious doctrine. And what we strongly reject at that time are doctrines. We don't like doctrines, theologies, and catechism, which remind us too much of the ideological stories, communism, Nazism, and so on. But what we want is goodness, morality. Everywhere we have the impression that it is the religions, spiritual or secular, that have crushed men. Wisdom implies a fusion with nature and the suppression of Christian dualism. And it is a very important thing, and we could speak a long time about it. Judeo-Christian religions are based on dualism: nature, culture, soul, body, men, women, etc., and so on and so on. And today we are looking at a fusion of the two principles. We are looking for a monism. By underlining these profound transformations, paganism, renewal of ancient wisdom, or imitation of Asian wisdom, we understand that it is the most fundamental assumptions of Christianity that are implicated. These presuppositions I will describe in 4 points. The most surprising thing is that our societies have reversed the presuppositions, but at the same time cherish their consequences. It is a sort of contradiction. If our contemporaries are really, probably without qualms, to lose this transcendent and monotheistic religion, which marks our origins, they are not at all ready to lose what we can call the fruits of these religions. In other words, all that this religion has left in terms of ethics and culture. which shows how we are in the middle of the ford. I will explain. I will try to explain. The first point is a question of truth. Maybe you think it's strange. Truth. The truth is a Judeo-Christian invention initiated by the Greeks. Parmenides, Herodotus, Plato. The truth supposes both exclusivity. The contradictories are not true at the same time, and also universality. What is true here in Belgrade is true also in Paris. It is true. But the myths of Belgrade are different from the myths of Paris, you know. The truth is something different. So, universality. Today, we reject the truth because we consider it as fanatical. It can be true that it is fanatical, but, well, we are renewing many points with the ancient use of myths. And the ancient myths are not true, are not false, nor false nor true, upon which the ancient founded their morality. Now, a lot of things are myths. We don't speak about truth, we speak about récits, stories. Our contemporaries share religious beliefs based on myths are not on truths. After all, the important thing is not that the Christ or Buddha really existed. What counts is their moral impact. Immanent religions based on myths also offer meaning for life. And that is what we need. Also, perhaps our destiny is to orientalize ourselves in the near future. Contrary to what Husserl wrote, Husserl said, the other peoples are westernizing. It was at the beginning of the 20th century. The other peoples are westernizing, but us, Occidental people, we will never be Indianized. He was wrong. He was wrong. Today we are Indianizing us. This evolution marks the metamorphosing of a cult in culture. You see the difference, very big difference between cult and culture. And the cult is becoming a culture. The Christian religion is changing to a simple state of culture. Culture must be indifferent to value and belief. A religion that becomes only a culture must be spared from the belief. For example, the course of History of Religions replaces the Catechism course. You see? The totalitarian and postmodern countries which try to suppress religions use this means of degrading them into cultures. Thus, the interior of Soviet churches, you know that, and cathedrals had often been transformed into museums. For example, in St. Petersburg, Kazan Cathedral. And so many are of how chapels or small churches are no longer places of worship, but only places of visit and art. It is almost impossible to destroy a religion, even if some regimes like communism have used it by violence. On the other hand, you can easily erase a religion by transforming it into culture. There is an aesthetic detachment from culture, which eradicates all forms of belief, as Kierkegaard has well shown. We notice that the erasure of the notion of truth weakens the sciences and generates an inflation of speeches based on emotion or myth. This is the case of the current discourse of ecology. But there is in our societies a refusal of this regression. See, for example, the criticism of the post-truth, what we call post-truth. On the other hand, we are very much interested in universality. We passionately want human rights to spread everywhere. We do not consider at all that they are just special principles made for us only. No. We value highly science also, which by definition affirms universal truth. Thus, we reject the idea of truth from Christianity, but we defend its fruits. There is other points. The second point is the point of the intrinsic human dignity. That means no man, no matter how valuable to society, can be treated like meat. Nobody can be treated like meat. Because that certainty goes away, we accept laws like abortion or euthanasia. However, the only absolute moral certainty that remains to us is the horror of the Shoah, which conveys a certainty of intrinsic dignity. But we have lost the foundations of this certainty. Man is absolutely worthy because God's image, that is the foundation. Man is God's image. So we are no longer able to maintain consistency. Sometimes we question the kingship of man. For example, animal rights. What is animal rights? As if animal can have rights. Sometimes we claim that the human is only an assemblage of physical chemistry. Elsewhere, we call for the arrival of immortal cyborgs, half humans, half machines. In other words, we value highly the humanism of ontological dignity and royalty that Christianity has transmitted to us, but we are not able to maintain its coherence, and we challenge it by all sorts of measures and aspiration that could prepare the coming Shoahs. Chesterton spoke about, I quote, the tyrannies as young as flowers. This is another contradiction. there is another point. We value highly the freedom of autonomy, the personal conscience, which were built in the West. It is our culture. It is not Chinese culture. It is our culture. From a cosmogony in which God confers freedom to his creature. This is Christian. This is not from Muslim. God confers freedom to his creatures. It is from this original history that modern democracy first appears, and nowhere else. First in the monastery, 6th century, monastery of Saint Benoit, then in the Italian church, Italian cities, 11th and 12th century, and then in the Magna Carta of 1215 in England. We are passionate with democracy. But we do not want to defend the foundations of freedom and personal conscience. What are these foundations? The monogamous marriage and the presence of the father. The presence of the father, the paternity, allows the emancipation of the children. The polygamy and the absence of the father require authoritarian powers. If you don't have a father, you need absolutely an autocrat regime. Absolutely. Then, the risk that the decisions of freedom imply. We don't know it sufficiently. We no longer want to take on these risks. We are looking for safe societies where everything is based on protocols and not on decisions. We defend the consensus, which is the reverse of democracy, the reverse. This is another contradiction. We love the fruits of a religion whose principles we renounce. Fourth, and last but not least point, the vision of time. Judeo-Christianity, for the first time, perhaps fleeting exception among the ancient Persian Mazdan, but very little exception, for the first time, abandons the circular time found in all civilization, circular time like that, and inaugurates the arrowed time like that, which corresponds to the appearance of transcendence, and after let place to progress. The arrowed time is the vector of the hope of salvation. Then, from modernity, the vector of thoughts of progress. But here too, another time, there is a strange incoherence. We do not want to abandon the thought of progress in the arrow, nor the time of hope, but at the same time, we are attracted by a new vision of time, catastrophism. We could speak about it a long time. Which catastrophism which reinstates a circular time. A circular time is the time for the myth of combat. Order, cow, order, cow, order, cow. This is the circular time. All the ecologist speeches, all inaugurated or not by Gunther Anders, on the time of the delay, Agamben, for example, and the time of the end, on the new catastrophes, mark an exit of the arrowed time. Yet, we are deeply attached to the world of hope, another contradiction. For the conclusion, if we do not want humans to be treated like meat, we have to give them an intrinsic value. If we want to avail ourselves of universal principle to spread in all cultures, we must accept the idea of truth. If we want freedom of autonomy and personal conscience, we must accept the risk of thought, the democratic quarrel, and paternity. If we want to save progress and hope, we must save the time with all that it assumes of self-confidence and trust in the future. All these principles to which we hold are the fruits of Christianity and belong only to it. No other culture carries them, no other. Hence, the incoherence in which we find ourselves. Christendom is abolished, but Christianity is the spirit of the place, I could say. I'm hoping for your contradiction or questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Concerning the debate, I asked Uroš if he is willing to help us maybe. So if you want, we can do it in English, everything, or we could use his...
Okay.
What do
He
you
speaks
prefer?
French.
He speaks French. Dođi ovdje i pa da, evo ima i ovdje, da, okay. So, thank you all very much. I think that there's a lot of food for thought here, and I already read the book, which is also, this is like 1/3 of the argumentation that you may find so many of the very inspirative stuff. The last chapter is called Christendom without Christianity, in a way, and speaks about the future and all the contradictions that we got and how to live with all contradictions. So I think there's a lot of things that we could comment, speak, ask, and so on. And of course, I give a floor to you. So there's a mic around. And please go on with the comments, questions. You can do it in English, and we can ask then for the translation in response.
Well, we are going to see, because my English is not so good, and to answer some difficult question.
Okay, so you can
maybe
French.
It will be difficult for me.
Okay,
I don't
but
know.
we can
Okay.
do questions in
Okay.
English, and you can respond in
Yes.
French with Uroš as translator here. Please. Mr. Dostavić.
Hello, thank you for a very great and inspiring lecture. I have a question concerning the paganization, not only of the general society, but the paganization of the Christian churches. Because we see the same spirit of the time taking the roots within the churches mainly in the West, Protestant churches and the Catholic Church as well. Could you give a comment on that? Thank you.
You're speaking about the problem of the church. Yes. I think in all century we had problem with the church, but the main problem today is that 4th or 5th century, the problem of the church was not so grave because the society was Christian. So the societies maintained the church and hoping it will pass. But now the society is not Christian. So we have the church doesn't go well and the society neither. And this is a real problem. I don't know the answer because I think it is more a problem than before. Because people say we had the bourgeois. Yes, we had. But societies were Christian, you know. So I'm not quite like you.
Thank you very much. Please, you want the comments with the questions and so on. Please.
Okay, I think it's on. Thank you very much for really a very interesting lecture. Many good points were raised. My question is concerning this relationship between paganism on one side and nihilism on the other. Namely, maybe could you elaborate on this relationship, whether you think that the new rise of paganism offers some sort of new moral system, or is it essentially equivalent to nihilism in the sense that it stands to completely destroy the basis of the old Christian order in terms of morality, in terms of precepts for living?
You have a little part of nihilism, a little part, yes. But in the large part, it is a new moral that comes from Christianism. It's normal, you pick up where you can, but without transcendence. And this new moral can resemble to Asiatic moral. Some authors call it humanitarianism, from Chesterton and Kolnay, the Hungary, some like that. And humanitarianism is good, I think. It is a sort of the care, what we call actually the care, something without transcendence, compassion, and no God, but very strong, yes. Yes.
Thank you. Please. People think about. So I will, following your methodology in which you were implying actually how we are inheriting so many valuable things from Christianity, but try to reduce that to, let me say, the norms without its Christian basis. I will go back to the problems which are connected with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the whole, let me say, narrative or what was really going on. So, Universal Declaration of Human Rights is the result of strong paganism that dominated in the Nazism, which implied and justified the eugenics destruction of the meat of the human, and as you said, reduction of a human being to chemistry and biology. I mean, the whole idea, people like Jacques Maritain and Christians who were perceiving what was going on pressed strongly after the Second World War. Basically, what we forget to insist on the Christian basis of the human rights and to try to make taboos, again, humanity to be tabooed, not to be able to reduce to flesh and blood or whatsoever. Somehow, today, if we go how Universal Declaration is treated, again, we focus on the certain provisions and reducing that on the just norms without this idea of tabooing. So my question is connected with what Leszek Kolakowski in his last book, Modernity on its Trial, in 1990 already said, that was like 32 years ago, speaking about taboos. He said, I'm trying to quote in a way, he said, actually we destroyed all taboos in modern world apart from, I think he mentioned two, incest and pedophilia. We could add zoophilia, maybe that somehow remain. But when you take a look what is happening with today's world, especially in the popular culture, in Game of Thrones and so on, you see that in a way, even those taboos are being attacked. So recently we had, I got from a friend in Italia, in primary school in Brescia, kids of 10 years were exposed to the pornography on their class of sexual education. And it's becoming kind of normal. Many people think that it is kind of pushing for legitimization of pedophilia. So my question is actually, when we speak about those taboos,
Kolakowski came.
Yeah, sorry.
Kolakowski came when he didn't see the evolution of postmodern, and he could believe that it was really nihilistic evolution, and it is not the case. He saw the taboo becoming nothing, but it is not the case, the same case now, not at all, because some taboos are no more taboo, and some other taboo appear. The pedophilia in the church was not a taboo, really. No. It appears like a taboo. To injure women was not a taboo. It is now a taboo. So some taboo are not no more taboo, and the inverse is true. It is another moral. It is not the end of taboo. I don't think so at all. I hear about pedophilia from the Bishop of France. They say, they don't say it with a micro, but they say before, oh, it's no problem. It's a little problem. Now it is really a taboo. You see.
Okay, and sorry. My question was actually, could we have taboos in pagan? If we return to paganism, how do they protect taboos, for example?
Because of tradition. They have a lot of taboo in China. Absolutely pagan civilization, and taboo are protected by tradition, and there is no religion, but it is a state that protects it, absolutely. And now, if you look at our societies, it is a state that gives a moral, because we are no more bishop.
Okay, thank you. Please?
If I may.
Of course.
Evo, prvo samo jedna napomena svima. Ja ću postaviti pitanja na francuskom, onda ih prevesti ako se slažete. Da bi gospođa imala vremena da razmisli, jer ih imam više. Alors, je poserai mes questions en français, et j'ai... Exact. Alors, je vous prie d'être bref en réponse, autant que je serai bref en mes questions. Alors, tout d'abord, plus ou moins, j'ai 4 questions, mais je vais faire vite. Vous avez mentionné la valeur intrinsèque de la vie humaine, et je ne suis pas philosophe. Toute idée d'une étude approfondie de la philosophie était assez éloignée dans mon parcours personnel, mais de toute façon, n'est-il pas le cas avec l'idée même du mouvement de protection des droits de l'homme, que la valeur intrinsèque de chaque être humain est là et doit être protégée d'une manière universelle et pas particulière ou non universelle. Deuxième chose qui m'a un peu choqué de la part de quelqu'un qui prône le christianisme est le fait que vous avez mentionné que ça vous étonne un peu d'entendre parler des droits des animaux. Mais ne sont-ils pas des créatures de Dieu avec une âme qui mérite la protection si on adopte la vision religieuse ou si on adopte une version moins religieuse, les êtres qui méritent d'être bien traités, d'avoir un bien-être dans la vie. Troisième question, c'est concernant la Serbie et la région, et la dernière, la France, juste pour faire la balance. J'imagine que vous avez entièrement raison sur cet effacement de la chrétienté dans le monde de l'Occident. Mais ici, dans notre région, c'est exactement l'inverse. On vit une résurrection des religions qui ont engendré, dans une bonne mesure, les guerres. Alors, quel serait votre regard là-dessus? Et la dernière question, en vous écoutant, j'ai un peu eu l'impression d'entendre un Michel Houellebecq qui a une bonne éducation en philosophie. En quelque sorte, il y a une certaine similitude dans les points de vue. Êtes-vous d'accord là-dessus ou vous refusez l'idée même de vous comparer avec un écrivain, peu importe ses vues sur le monde? Je traduis mes questions.
D'accord.
Dakle, prvo je bilo pitanje ova intrisečna vrednost ljudskog života. Intrisična i da li gospođa smatra da možda ona nije u samom srcu pokreta koji je stvorio bitne konvencije u oblasti prava, ljudskih prava. Drugo što sam rekao je oko prava životinja. Ako uzmemo kao polaznu osnovu hrišćanski stav, zar to nisu bića sa dušom? I zar ne zaslužuju neki vid tretmana? Ako odbacimo hrišćanski stav, zar to nisu bića koje zaslužuju da imaju tretman i očuvanje dobrobiti bar? Ako već odbijamo ideju sa prezirom prava životinje. Zatim sam joj rekao da smatram, a to već znam, vidim po reakciji, da smo mi u delu sveta koji je potpuno za razliku od zapada, deo sveta gde smo oživeli, svedočimo oživljavanju religija, svih, dakle sve tri koje su masovno prisutne, ne znam za ostale, i da je to dobrim delom i uzrok ratova koje smo imali, kako na to posmatra. I konačno sam je pitao da li je ona Michel Houellebecq na filozofskim steroidima i da li uopšte dozvoljava takav vid poređenja. Eto.
Alors rapidement, donc, pour la valeur intrinsèque de la vie, bien sûr, mais pour les droits de l'homme, c'est la volonté individuelle qui prime d'abord. Et il est bien souvent la valeur intrinsèque de la vie va passer après. C'est ce qui se passe avec l'IVG. Vous voulez traduire chaque question ou vous traduisez à la fin?
Ce serait mieux de traduire question par question,
alors,
parce que sinon je vais...
Alors allez-y.
Dakle, gospođa kaže da kod doktrine ljudskih prava dominira individualistički pristup.
En ce qui concerne les droits des animaux, non. Avoir des droits, c'est avoir une conscience. une capacité à se décider soi-même, une autonomie personnelle. Les animaux n'en ont pas. Les animaux méritent notre protection, bien entendu. Nous avons des devoirs envers eux, mais ils n'ont pas de droits, pour moi.
Što se tiče životinja, gospođa smatra da bi ste imali prava, treba da imate svest i autonomiju, da životinje to nemaju, da zaslužuju zaštitu, ali ne i prava.
En ce qui concerne les religions qui provoquent des guerres, tout provoque des guerres. Vous avez les guerres de l'universel et les guerres du particulier. Les guerres de l'universel sont des guerres des religions, on se bat pour des croyances, mais quand il n'y a plus de religion, on se bat pour des particularités. C'est-à-dire, on se bat, un Français va se battre contre un Serbe juste parce qu'il est français et que l'autre est serbe, c'est tout.
Gospođa kaže, religije izazivaju ratove, ali kad ih nema, ima dovoljno osnova za ratove. Da nema religije, Francuz jedan bi se borio protiv Srbina samo zato što je ovaj Francuz, a ovaj Srbin. D'accord.
Quant à Houellebecq, je suis écrivain moi-même, et c'est sûr que nous avons quelques idées en commun, hein, notamment concernant l'islam. Mais c'est pas vraiment mon ami, non.
Što se tiče Michela Houellebecqa, možda dele neke ideje o islamu, gospođa kaže da je i sama pisac, tako da ga razume i sa te strane, ali to nije njen prijatelj. Merci bien.
If I can add a little bit, your argumentation about the return of religion as the causes of the war, you may say the same for democracy. When we got democracy back, we got the war. Does it mean that we have to erase democracy as a way to avoid war?
Misha, did we have a real democracy in 90s?
Yeah, we have the elections, everyone. Democratic elections in Croatia. People chose Tudjman, people chose Milosevic here and so on.
Yeah.
Neće. Teško jeste i kratko je. Ok. Nekoliko puta je pomenuto da je čovek jedinka smatrana mesom. Sad, mene interesuje da li kultura koja razvija u čoveku potrebu za samožrtvovanjem u stvari njega uspešno ubeđuje da sam sebe smatra mesom. Eto.
Une très bonne question qui ne sera pas si facile à traduire. Il y avait plusieurs fois, lors de votre présentation, et vous avez mentionné la notion de la viande humaine. Et est-ce qu'une culture qui prône l'idée du sacrifice ne transforme-t-elle pas, en tant que telle, l'homme en viande par cette méthode d'idée qui est liée à l'idée de sacrifice et autosacrifice. Samožrtvovanje. Sacrifice, autosacrifice.
Ce qu'il y a de grand dans notre religion, c'est le sacrifice d'Isaac, où l'ange arrête la main pour dire « c'est fini maintenant, on ne sacrifie plus les hommes ne sont plus de la viande ». C'est pour ça que j'aime cette religion.
Gospođa kaže, zato je religija velika jer imate sa Isakom i njegovom žrtvom, poslednjom je prestala ideja žrtvovanja i upravo zato to je njen odgovor. Ne sam siguran da ste baš ste prezadovoljni. Razumem ja šta je. Eto.
Add a little bit just from that perspective, something in you which inspires you to sacrifice yourself for something higher means that you're not flesh and blood only, that you also have some ideas. I understand what you wanted, so please. Please go on with the questions, comments, please.
Okay.
Proba 1, 2.
Okay. Just okay. So the basically, yeah, it seems like that. But I think you can hear me well enough. Well, the thing is, as I see it, we have many examples of nihilism in contemporary Western societies, and not only in them, because the Westernization goes globally. And but I may agree with you that there's something that will replace it, because it is unbearable to live in nihilistic society. It is unsustainable in the long run. So probably some anti-Christian sort of society, a pagan society, demonic as it was, may be proposed as a solution for the nihilistic trends that we live with today. Thank you.
Well, I hope I understood well. You will tell me. I think in this pagan society, new pagan society, the only barrier to that sort of thing, pedophilia, is consequences. We have an ethic of care, and the only impeachment is the consequence. We have a moral of consequences, what we name, what we call consequentialism. And the best example today is the gender at school. with very little children, they are going to stop it in Scandinavian countries and even now in England because of consequences. It is a stop. The stop is not dogma as before, but it is a consequence. I don't know if I answer your question.
Unfortunately, they're not stopping. They only stop the clinic in Tavistock.
Yes, Tavistock, yes.
Temporary issue, not fully stopped.
Yes, but
Initiative. But okay, the first question was brief. Do you consider these processes of anti-Christian transformation of societies in the West as guided or designed process or as a spontaneous process?
je n'ai pas compris en fait ce qu'il a dit là. Ce processus de déchristianisation était quoi?
Est-il guidé? Guidé par qui, je sais pas, guidé par quelqu'un ou par quelque chose ou totalement spontané?
Ah, yes. No, I don't know. There is no volonté, no special volonté. Who would be it? What are you thinking about? I don't know. It is spontaneous, I think. Why? From very long time. I think in France, the country I know, I think from Montaigne, it is very old, all the writers don't believe in God. Very old. Huh? It is a long process. You see?
I agree with you, it is a long process. I only disagree that it is just spontaneous.
Okay.
That's the difference.
We have another question here.
Bonjour, Madame Delsol. Je voudrais remercier pour Bienvenue à Serbiji. Moje zamoliti kolegu Ćimalovića da odgovori na prevede moje pitanje koje sam planirao da postavim, ali može i da odgovori.
Alors, pour une fois, une question plus simple. Est-ce que le fait même d'avoir eu la révolution en France a contribué à la paganisation? Et si oui, dans cette mouvance, quelles forces ont été celles qui ont mené vers une telle issue?
La saison révolutionnaire a évidemment aidé la paganisation, et nous en avons 1000 exemples. Ça a commencé, la chose la plus importante, par ce qu'on a appelé la querelle du panthéisme au début du XIXe siècle, avec les articles de Jacobi, etc. Ça commence beaucoup en Allemagne aussi, en Allemagne et en France. Mais le paganisme est quelque chose qui se répand comme une traînée de poudre à partir de la saison révolutionnaire. C'est évident. Quand il y a plus de transcendance, c'est ça reprend, vous savez, comme c'est une plante qui pousse sur le désert, le paganisme, ça arrive tout seul. Donc vous ôtez la transcendance, ça renaît tout seul.
Okay. Gospođa kaže da je sezona revolucija doprinela paganizaciji. Imate niz primjera na početku 19. veka i u Nemačkoj i u Francuskoj. Rekla imate 1000 primjera, recimo panteizam. I na kraju je dodala da kada uklonite transcendenciju kao ideju, onda na tom pustom polju rastu ti đavoli paganizma, vrlo lepo, plodno im je to tlo nihilističko. Eto.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
au traducteur.
Traducteur fantastique.
Bon, on va y aller peut-être.
Oui. Since we are about to finish slowly because the time is running, the flight is already at 5 and so on. I will have to ask you to finish with. Sorry, I forgot. Survey is okay. Before I thank you for everything, I think one thing that would be, as an Institute for European Studies, which we are, as unfortunately I didn't bring to show here, but yesterday we presented that. We translated 5 years ago declaration, or so-called Paris Declaration, that you have signed with 10, 11 leading, let me say, Christian intellectuals today, people like Pierre Manet or Rémi Brague or Robert Spemann and so on, and we published that here. So I think that it would be very interesting to present at the end your idea about the possible Europe, because Ms. Delsol, as a classical, let me say, Christian and Catholic, has idea of subsidiarity, federalism, an idea about some different Europe that we have today as a European Union. And with that, I would like to finish. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your...
No, that was the question. I wanted to ask you to give us some idea how different Europe could look like.
It's a big question. I like the Europe of right of man, of men and women, yes. But I think now there are exaggeration. And I think everybody can be happy to have equal right of men and women, but when it imposes some things as now gender in 6 age old, transgender, it is impossible to go there. So I like Europe, but not this exaggeration. And I'm fighting against this. Yes.
Thank you very much. Enfin, je dois remercier beaucoup. C'était un grand plaisir et un honneur de voir vous avec nous pour cette brève mais très intéressante et très utile visite. Et j'espère que ce n'est pas l'ultime fois et j'espère que nous pouvons voir à différentes conférences, mais aussi en Serbie la prochaine fois. Merci beaucoup.
Merci à vous.